Don't we all love breakfast? It's said to be the most important meal of the day. But have you ever stopped to wonder why we even eat breakfast? How breakfast came to be? And who might the profiteers be behind this seemingly innocent industry? Yeah, I never thought about that either until this investigation, because that's how it was meant to be. What I'm about to uncover is one of the biggest heists in history. People have single-handedly invented an entirely new meal to take money from your pocket into their pockets. Capitalism at its finest. Before the Industrial Revolution, breakfast was not even considered a meal. Breakfast was seen as a snacking time. It was a practical means to eat leftovers from the previous night's dinner. In the 16th century, breakfast was actually socially and morally frowned upon. But upon the onset of the Industrial Revolution, everything changed. Breakfast became a societal norm for everyone. Foods like eggs and bacon suddenly became common breakfast foods. But the emergence of breakfast was not a trend that consumers chose to participate in. It was not a medical advancement either. Breakfast was simply a construct built by a few men who wanted to take all the money for themselves. The kind of food that we eat are the foods that are the most profitable. So where do we even start with this entire mess? The first person that we need to investigate is Edward Bernays. Picture the scene. In the 1920s, the beech nut packing company wanted to sell more bacon. You see, they had a problem. Before the Industrial Revolution, farmers were eating bacon in the morning not because they wanted to, but because that was the only food available. But once people started moving to cities and getting jobs, this began to change. They started to turn to alternatives like toast and coffee. Beech Nut Packing Company made most of its profit from bacon, and they quickly started to see a decline in profits. So they turned to Edward Bernays to solve this problem. Bernays was dubbed the father of public relations. He was the nephew of the renowned psychologist Sigmund Freud. His specialty was in psychological propaganda. Through his clever and unethical strategies, he had the power to manipulate the entire US population. His previous projects included government propaganda efforts and the growth of Lucky Strike cigarettes. He was an expert at manipulating minds. Bernays single-handedly turned cigarettes into innocent symbols of freedom. He was the devil himself. And when it came to bacon and breakfast, it was all just another opportunity for him to profit. Bernays did not even eat bacon himself. But why would that matter to him? He just needed to manipulate the whole country to make some more money. Most marketers would turn to billboards or magazine ads to market products. But Bernays had an edge over everyone. He knew from his uncle that authority has a huge influence on public opinion. And the strongest type of authority comes from doctors. Nobody doubts the opinions of doctors. Bernays just happened to have a doctor on his agency's payroll just for this purpose, so he went to this doctor to back him up on bacon. Bernays had his doctor write to 5,000 other doctors asking whether breakfast should include bacon. Most doctors agreed even though there was little medical research supporting this. All of it was a facade. Bernays was literally paying the doctor to back him up on this. The doctors were simply just doing a favor to the other well-known doctor. Bernays had a master plan behind all of this. He was leveraging an unknown psychological concept called social proof. Social proof is a phenomenon where a decision becomes validated by others. When you see everyone eating popcorn at a movie theater, your first instinct is to eat popcorn as well. When you combine social proof with authority, the psychological persuasion is unstoppable. But you might be wondering, how did Bernays get the doctors to back up such foolish claims? This was another one of his subtle manipulations. Rather than forcing the doctors to make a yes or no choice, he allowed for the possibility of a middle ground. He asked the doctors the following question: could bacon be considered a healthy part of a heavy breakfast if eaten in moderation? The key words are could and moderation. The nuance in the question made it seem like a no-brainer for doctors to support him. With the medical authority to back his claims, Bernays was unstoppable. He sent his false medical findings to papers worldwide. Of course, he left out the actual question in his findings. Now Bernays just needed to fix one more part of the equation, and that was the company itself. He went back to Beech Nut Packing Company to revolutionize their marketing. Rather than just simply advertise bacon, he made sure that all their ads referenced this fabricated study. He then implemented further social proof by calling it a real American breakfast. In the following months, bacon sales began exploding, and so did Beech-Nut Packing Company's profits. Edward Bernays had manipulated the entire country into eating bacon and eggs for breakfast. Even to this day, people still eat bacon for breakfast. That's despite all the research showing that doing so is extremely unhealthy.
We carried out a letter to 5,000 physicians. Obviously, all of them concurred that a heavy breakfast was better for the health of the American people than a light breakfast. That was publicized in the newspapers. Newspapers throughout the country had headlines saying 4,500 physicians urge heavy breakfast in order to improve health of American people. Many of them stated that bacon and eggs should be embodied with the breakfast, and as a result, the sale of bacon went up.
Bernays once said that
the conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society.
So in other words, simple daily habits that we participate in are all just from entrepreneurs making a quick buck. One side effect of the bacon manipulation was that breakfast became a heavy meal that Americans began to participate in. This opened the floodgate for other entrepreneurs to rush in and make loads of profit as well. One other man knew this far too well, John Harvey Kellogg. You know the phrase breakfast is the most important meal of the day? Well, that was all just propaganda spread by Kellogg. And even still to this day, Kellogg's cereal has benefited tremendously from this false propaganda. In the early 1900s, John Kellogg invented the formula for the well-known cornflakes. The cereal was meant to be a healthy alternative to current options for breakfast. But over time, John and his brother Will altered the cereal to become the highly processed and addictive cereal that we see today. To convince the entire American public, the Kellogg brothers leveraged extremely unethical marketing tactics. All of this happened right under the eyes of the mass public and nobody noticed. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, there were very few regulations around food advertising. This allowed businesses to make exaggerated and false claims about their products. The Kellogg brothers knew this, and they wanted to capitalize on it big time. So they began promoting their products with unsupported health claims. They claimed that breakfast was the most important meal of the day with no evidence whatsoever. This false statement was soon plastered everywhere. Billboards, newspapers, radio stations, and even schools were all filled with statements about breakfast. But this did not entirely work at first. Adults tend to be more skeptical of newer trends or exaggerated claims. But children are the complete opposite. They tend to be more gullible and open-minded. The Kellogg brothers began aggressively targeting children. The brothers added in colorful packaging, cartoon mascots, and toy giveaways to attract children. Their first in-pack promotion was a funny Jungleland moving pictures booklet. This was an instant success, and eventually became an annual feature for over 23 years. Cartoon characters like the Cornelius Corny Rooster also attracted the young audience. The brothers even added sweetened cereals to appeal to children's taste buds. All the children were instantly hooked. Was this all ethical? Of course not, and John Kellogg knew this. But Will Kellogg saw the opportunity, and he wanted all the riches to himself. The two brothers ended up making separate companies. John wanted to stick to a more healthy version, while Will did not care about the health of his customers. Will's sweeter variant was an instant hit, while John's blander variant quickly faded out. Will's company is now the Kellogg company we know today. Will did not care that all of this was incredibly unhealthy for the young customers. Once the children began to eat the cereal, they were hooked for the rest of their lives. Just like any drug, all it takes is one try to be locked in for life. The addition of sweets ensured that Will's cereal company would thrive for centuries to come, but the brothers still wanted to take things further. They took a page out of Bernays' book, Authority as Power Over the American Public. Just as Bernays had discovered, doctors in particular are trusted to the utmost degree. So the Kellogg brothers positioned themselves as health experts to lend false credibility to their products. They also began paying doctors to create studies confirming their claims about the importance of breakfast. These studies were built in ways that would ensure that the results supported cereal and breakfast as a whole. It did not matter that the studies were rigged since nobody looked into them. The Kellogg brothers would then cite these studies in ads as a source of authority. This made everyone start buying their cereal for the supposed health benefits. They told everyone that cereal would help with constipation. They also said that cereal made children grow taller. They even claimed that cereal helped with weight loss. But all of this was still not enough for them. The Kellogg brothers had one final nail in the coffin that would finally seal the deal. At the dawn of the 20th century, America was grappling with a public health crisis. Because of the industrialization of America, a digestive disorder was spreading called dyspepsia. Dyspepsia is when you have indigestion discomfort in your stomach. Due to the increase in popularity of unhealthy diets and cigarettes, dyspepsia was rapidly spreading throughout the country. America went from being active on farms and eating normal foods to sitting in a chair all day and eating processed foods. Back in the day, you couldn't go a day without someone talking about their stomach pain. Dyspepsia was so popular that it was even named America's national disease. Kellogg saw this as an opportunity to profit through their cereal. They aggressively touted cereal as a cure for dyspepsia with little to no medical evidence. Of course, all of these claims about their cereal were false. Their highly processed sugary cereals were just as terrible as all the other foods out there. But that didn't matter to them. Why would they care? Just like how eggs and bacon are common breakfast foods today, sugary cereal remains fundamental to American culture today. Nobody has stopped to question whether cereal was unhealthy or at all a scam. Through the addition of highly processed sugary cereal to the American diet, obesity, diabetes, and heart disease has exploded. The impacts on the American public even to this day are still significant. Bernays and the Kellogg brothers did not just create products. They fashioned an entire lifestyle, artfully weaving together false strands of health and convenience. The breakfast industry is now worth almost $400 billion. If you want to see more videos uncovering the scary truth behind our daily routines or seemingly innocent companies, hit that like button and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one.